Okay, we'll call meeting to order. If we're to this and pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes. Any corrections?
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Bills.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any questions? Andy, anything to add?
Nope, we're good.
The sheriff's not here yet, I was looking over the frame, we must have hit a deer or something.
Must have.
It said radiator and condenser, so I don't know, maybe we must have hit something. That doesn't say anything about any body work being made. It's a city place, so maybe something.
No, I don't think it was in.
Okay. I just noticed.
Just like that.
I make a motion to approve.
We have it.
We have one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second.
Pop it in.
Save it for the next one. Any other questions? Roll call.
Britt,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Lightfon,
Hi.
Brown.
Aye. Financial.
Later on the agenda, I have for a couple of letters of transfer to take care of a few accounts. Otherwise, everything's good.
Yeah, we have on the agenda here down the road.
Yep.
Good. Any questions with the financials?
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve, or a second?
Second.
Second. Any other questions? Roll call.
Olson,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Britt,
Aye.
Lightfon,
Hi.
Brown.
Aye. Treasurer's checks.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any questions? Roll call.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Lightfon,
Hi.
Britt,
Aye.
Brown.
Aye. Approval of the agenda. Anything to add?
Move to approve.
A motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Stacy,
Hi, how are you?
good, how about yourself?
Getting short,
Short winter?
short timer, when you got not much time left, that's called a short timer.
Short.
I just want to bring it up, we continue to be busy for the month of October, but I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We probably should start thinking about advertising the position, so we can try and get somebody in place by sometime in January.
Sure.
And then I'd like to work with them for 2 months, and then bid my due come March 26th. So that's what I got to say today, and I'm sticking to it.
You're sticking to it, huh? Nothing else?
Not till you ask a question.
Anybody have any questions for Stacy? I hope so. I see you're getting a lot of people trafficking in your place.
It's still yeah, everything's working good, and now, because of that blue water thing, we filed a lot of the, bringing them back in and getting claims turned in for that. Then, now this past 2 weeks, the VA is sending letters out to everybody that's turned in a claim for the blue water situation, and now they want more forms and more paperwork in. So now we got guys coming back in to do another form, and that'll continue, I imagine, for another month. But there's something that's going to happen in January with that blue water Navy thing.
Okay.
So,
Benson and Nelson are all ready for next year. I don't know.
that'll work out with the auditors. I assume that's what we've done the last couple of years.
Okay.
And no one said any adverse things or anything one way or the other.
Okay. Good. Any other questions for Stacy? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
See you, sure.
See you next month.
Yeah, Dave, no. Crystal.
Is Crystal here?
No, she's sick.
Oh, she's sick.
Oh, she is there, okay.
Yeah.
She probably got us out. Mr. Nelson isn't here, huh? You're on, Kevin. You ready?
Yep. First one on the list is that the project updates, paper patches, we did get that. We did an open cut, put a culvert in on Ramsey 4 by Edmore. And we got the paper patch over the top of that, but we didn't get any other ones done, so. At least that open cut culvert got paved, so it won't go through the winter.
Who's doing the paper patches again?
Strata,
Oh, really?
yeah. So we'll just have to do them next year now.
Strata's going to work on the highway too, right?
Right.
They got their hands full still.
Yeah.
Hands full?
Hands full.
They're overflowing. Yeah, have you heard any updates on that Highway 2 project? Or
I haven't,
I haven't asked you.
no. I mean, their hope is to get it open for the winter, you know. The traffic is crazy, the way it is, it would never go through the winter.
Is this not the winter? I thought we were.
Yeah, we're here. But they still got some concrete pour too, so. I don't know, Greg, maybe you've got an idea.
I think they were gonna do the last concrete pour for this season tomorrow on Wednesday. And then they will still have work to do in the spring, but it will be normal traffic flow over the winter.
When do you think that will start?
Well, if their last concrete pours tomorrow, which I know of, it would be at least a week after that before it'll be back.
I can't believe how many comments I get. And the comment I get is, the county involved in this? I said, hell no.
The city tells the people the same thing, it's just the DOT and Strata.
When I go to Prairie, I go anywhere through the back streets here and get to Road 2, that's how I get home. That's a mess down there. I can't believe somebody hasn't been killed. Like some bad wrecks. It's just, it's a service.
Semis, my gosh, I would hate to be a semi trying to get around.
I'd like to ask Bindings and Farmers Union and Oil how much drop in sales they've had. You just don't see many trucks on the road.
But some.
It's devastating. Penalties are pretty severe for them then now?
I don't know, the DOT's doing the construction administration on their own. KLJ's is doing some material testing on the project. So that'd be a question for the DOT.
Might have that question for them. Paver patches, they got one done then, huh?
Mm-hmm.
We had how many lined up? Dozen?
5 or 6, 5 maybe.
Go ahead.
All right, that slip line culvert, they didn't get that quite done either, but it does, it'll flow water and everything, so it's functioning. So we paid part of that bill, we didn't pay all of it, but we paid part of it. And they'll finish that probably in the spring. They might do it in the middle of winter. That's something they could do in the middle of winter if they were slow. They just gotta put grout in between the liner and the old culvert. I haven't heard anything more than a Church's Ferry Bridge as far as inspection either. That might be, it's supposed to be done at the end of October or the 1st of November. And I don't think that's gonna get done. I don't know, they could still do it, but they gotta worry about ice blowing down through there now. Any questions on our projects? Okay, we have the contract for Ramsey County 2 design contract with KLJ for our paving next year. And I've looked at it and it looks acceptable to me. It's a really fair price, the way it looks to me. So we need a motion to sign that contract for the design engineering with KLJ.
So,
We have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
We have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
And bid results for the motor graders. I think you guys got the numbers that when we opened. I guess John Deere did bid their smaller machine, so it doesn't really meet the spec that I had, but I guess both John Deere and Cat are here to talk about it if you want to listen to them.
Okay, the machine John Deere bid in the same size we have? No.
No, it's smaller than that.
Smaller.
Yeah. It is. It is front wheel drive, but the ones we're trading in are all rear wheel drive, but the one they did is a front wheel drive. But that was our spec, we gone into the front wheel drives.
Does John Deere not stock the size we were looking for?
Yes, they do make one, the one we had on. Basically, it's an 870 that we have now, and they bid the 772, which is one size smaller. They could have bid at 872.
We do have some comments we would like to address, if that's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Okay. My name's Todd Freeze. I'm the sales rep in this up in this area for RDO equipment, John Deere. Kevin Grove is with us. He's a service manager for 35 years. Ronnie Lillehagen, she's a general manager. When we bid the specs, if you look at any competitive comparison out there, Cat is bidding the 150. Every competitive comparison you look at, John Deere's the 772. I want to mention about 3 different terms here. One's torque rise, and one is blade pull, okay? I know there was a little concern about the weight. However, with the 772 versus the 870 on the John Deere, which you guys have right now, we've got 15,000 more pounds of blade pull with the front wheel drive. So this machine is actually going to plow and pull harder than the models that you have right now. We're a little short on the horsepower by maybe 7 horse once you're up in 8th gear. Otherwise, we meet the spec in every, from 1 through 7. And then if you want to talk about torque pull, horsepower is important, but torque is what puts the rubber to the road and the rubber to the ground. That's what gives you the power on low-end torque machines or low-end RPM machines like the diesel engines and the motor graders are. So anyways, we do have more torque and we do have more torque rise than the Cat machine does. So that should make up for the horsepower differences that we're talking about.
And as to the comment that we could have bid the 872, of course we could have. But we understand the spec was written specifically for the 150 Cat. We understand it was written for Cat machine. And to address that, the matching one is the 772. It didn't make any sense to bid the 872 because that didn't match the spec that had been written. The 772 does, with a couple of minor exceptions. So that would be why we didn't bid the 872. We could have, and looking at what came out of the bid specs, our 872 still would have came in a lower price than what the Cat machine would have came in at. But we don't believe it was the right machine based on the specs that were written.
If Cat was going to bid against the 872, their competitive model would have been the 160, not the 150. The specs are so close on both machines, it's just not even funny. They're both right on.
Okay, what's the number of our old machines? 870, is that correct?
Right.
I guess if I might say something, address
Go ahead.
I think you all know who I am, Kevin Wolford from the Devil's Lake store here. We came to the table with the specs that were written for the 150 and also the 872. If you look at the base weight, 39,650 is the base weight of the 872 machine, not the 772. We have a smaller machine that we could have bid and noted in the bid specs, but we decided to meet all specs, and that's why we presented it today. Every county's different with specs. They have a good point when they say 772 goes up against our 140, 150, but there's also instances where counties and townships, BIA roads down south, they want 872s, they won't even accept a 772. I talked to Clarence many times on his thoughts, and if you look at our history in this area, 140 M3 all-wheel drives, which is now the 150, is the machine of choice for snow removal because of the base weight and the horsepower. It's a well-balanced machine. To bring their attention, they didn't meet horsepower on their 5th gear as well. We're at 272. We can go on and on about the specs, but you guys do have this machine in your hands today, the 140 M3, and it's performed well. And I think Kevin knows his specs, and that's what I went off of today. I followed the specs that Ramsey County wanted. Thank you.
We have 3 cats, right, Kevin?
We have 3 of each,
And the 3 cats we have are what number? 140?
143s.
143. They don't make that anymore?
This year they started with 150, yes.
150 is what their new one is, okay.
That's new this year.
They remake, they make one smaller than the 150?
Yes, they do. They make a couple smaller.
Okay.
So, to clarify, in your view, it is critical that all the specs are met, or do you feel that you agree with assessment of RDO that their smaller machine could perform the job as well?
Well, I wrote the specs. I didn't write the specs for a cat machine. I was writing it for the 870 and the 150, what I was using for spec sheets. And, I wasn't trying to favor one or the other at the time, but, that's a good question. I talked to 3 different, I talked to Walsh County, who's got a 772, and of course they wish they had a bigger machine. They're happy with the one they got, but anybody would want a bigger, more horsepower machine. I talked to Briggs County, same situation. They said they would rather have a heavier, more horsepower machine. And I also talked to Clarence Green down in south, they have 872s, and they wouldn't have anything else. They have a 772 also that they just use in the summertime.
These heavier machines, bigger ones will go through snow better?
That's the idea, yeah. Summer maintenance is not an issue with but winter maintenance is heavier and more horsepower.
Well, there's a lot to digest here, and looking at these bids and the information we've gotten. I think we should probably table it for 2 weeks. What do you think of that, Al?
I don't know. A lot of stuff here, yeah.
We would be more than willing to talk with you over the next couple of weeks to talk about some different things. We obviously have the best interests and want you guys to have the machines that work best for you also.
Right.
And so, if there's any information that we can bring you or provide you over the next couple of weeks, then we would be more than happy to do that. So, we valued our partnership. I know we've looked back over the records. This is an important bid for us too. We've looked at your records for like the last 7 years on what we've had with those 870s. And, we believe in the partnership that we had with you and we want to continue that. But to that end, we want you to have the machine that you believe is right for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in our position, right, I mean, you've sort of got 2 considerations. One, does it meet what it needs to do, and then, provided that it does, can you justify what you're choosing to do to a taxpayer, right? I mean, those are the 2 considerations.
Right.
I guess from my perspective, I just wish that we would have both bids meeting spec.
And we're happy with the John Deere. They had excellent service for us. I was just hoping that they would have bid an 872 versus a 772.
With the front-wheel drive, with the blade pull being significant over the 870, which is the machines you have right now, versus the 772s, which we bid, again, there's 15,000 pounds more blade pull on the 772 than it is on the bigger machine, the 870. So that should make up for the weight difference a little bit, I would think.
How many hours do the ones we're trading off have? They're 7 years old, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So quick now.
Vary from 7,800 to 7,000.
So that 8,000 hour spec on the buyback would be pretty accurate for what we're gonna put on in this.
Right. The ones we have had, only had $7,500. But at the time, that's all they offered as far as warranty. Now they offer $8,000.
Okay.
And the blades got a lot of hours last winter, I mean,
Right.
way more than normal, yeah.
And we still had big pushbacks with or big snowbanks. I mean, it was a tough winter, no doubt, but
Yeah.
they weren't even big enough to keep up last year. Either one, the cats or the deers.
How do they compare in consumables? Blades and
I would say they're pretty equal.
pretty equal?
It depends on the operator quite a bit. Trade-in values are, that's another thing to look at.
If you look at everything, it's $42,000 per machine.
Pardon me?
$42,000 per machine.
Difference.
$126,000 off for you.
And if we would've bid our smaller machine, we would've been right in there
All
too.
right, so yeah, it's,
Yeah, this is a comparable machine.
Smaller.
All of the times, it's a numbers game, they play back and forth, one puts a few more horse, a few more pounds, so they force the next one to bid a bigger machine.
The only problem doing that is they got to see bid results first. You know, that's the rub of the thing. But I agree with you, it would be nice to have you, have them bid the one that meets spec and see, but that's not really fair to CAT because you guys bid in a blind situation.
Based on all the information that we have of the cat specs and all the information we have from John Deere, we didn't like bid a smaller machine, we bid this machine that beats the spec. You know, there's a small difference on 8th gear. You know, I know everybody blades in 8th gear, we all know that, we all know it's transport gear, but we also know people blade in that. They do, so we meet the spec as far as with a couple of minor exceptions. It shouldn't have really no effect on performance. And that's the big thing here is performance. If you were happy with the 870s, then we're gonna add 15,000 more pounds of, you know, on with the 772s. That would be a significant difference just going from an 870 to a front wheel drive to the 772. So I think that'd be, you know, a nice increase you're gonna see in the power from that direction.
Well, just to clarify my own understanding, you know, if you were bidding us your larger machine, would that not also have a significant increase in power over what we have now?
Significantly more than what the bid spec would even call for.
That would put us at a competitive disadvantage because
Yeah.
CAT would have had to build their next bigger machine. We've always been 160, 870, 140, 770, or 772. That's the class of machine, so with the change in the slight amount of horsepower, they're trying to force the next size bigger.
Just getting the comparative models. If we're gonna bid the 872, then, you know, Butler should do the 160 also versus the 150.
Do you feel that that's fair?
No, because our weights, the biggest thing for snow removal is horsepower and weight. Our 150 is heavier than their 872 when it comes right down to it on base weight.
Gotcha. This is so far out of my wheelhouse of expertise that I'm not gonna sit here
And I
and
understand.
talk to you about what is needed or what isn't needed. I'm just trying to come to an understanding here.
And we as well want the best interest for the county and what machine would be best, but that's what we bid today was the machine that met the specs.
Well, there's a lot of discrepancies here. Hard to get your arms around it.
The bottom line is both machines are very, very, very competitive. They're both fairly equal.
Most counties had 870s and 772s and were replaced with all. When they run a straight frame machine, they did 870s. When they run the front wheel assist, they did 772s. And if you talk to Walsh County, they're happy with both and feel that both machines do an adequate job for them.
When do we expect to have them? When did we expect to have these?
April 1st is what I put in the bid. They would probably have to be ordered by December-ish. Get it by then.
So we'd be all right
January.
cabling it for
Yeah.
2 weeks, huh?
If you wanted to, yeah. Probably January is the latest. One of the problems is the snow equipment that we bid. It takes almost a month to get that, so. That's why the 4 months out.
There was no question we were gonna use what we have for the winter.
Yes, right, correct.
Hopefully snow removal isn't a concern April 1st, but I
Right.
guess there's always oddities, right?
Yeah. Usually on the April storms, we get by without the wings. We can just use the belly. I mean, there's always that situation.
Okay, any thoughts? What do you wanna do?
My thought is it doesn't meet specs. If they had a problem with the specs, they should have came in and said, hey, we think it's wrong with the specs are wrong. I mean, Kevin asked for this, this, and this. They gave him this, this, and this. The other one decided that, no, you don't need that, we'll change that. And that's my opinion. And I always thought that was what bid sheets were for, and specs.
Well, and I think, you know, to piggyback on that, I certainly don't want to tell our director of highways what he needs or doesn't need. You know,
Absolutely.
It's one of those situations where you're the expert, you know, you've been at this game a lot longer than we have. You know, if you say something's gonna work for you or not work for you, basically trust you. I guess my thought is, you either make a decision based on the parameters that Mark just set forth, or you almost have to go back into a blind bid process and basically reissue the bid with the understanding that the next bid is for the, you know, the machine that meets all the spec, which is less than fair to CAT, but it is the other option, in my mind, you know.
Can I ask what this, when you put your spec together, what was it based on? Where did you come up with that particular weight? It was a little bit different than ours, and it met the 150 exactly for CAT, or pretty close to CAT, and where the horsepower. I'm just curious on where that number came from, because that's important for me to know for future, is that what, you know, there might be a piece I'm missing when we're doing these for our counties and trying to help out.
Right, I think I used the spec off of the John Deere brochure for the weight, for the 870.
For the 870.
We still would have made it on the 870, we still don't meet the weight spec. We'd still be light.
We've still been light
If
even
we're
with
on
that.
dead 870, we'd still be a little light. Our machines are a little lighter.
I use the numbers off that sheet then. Unless yours are different somewhere.
On the bid, there is exceptions on there, and we did use our exceptions, so even though it didn't meet the specs, we do have our exceptions in the bids process, so that's why we're here.
Well, no, I want to make sure you all feel we're very appreciative that you're here to speak to, you know, what you decided to do and why. You know, that's, if you hadn't been here to at least explain it, I promise you, you know, we would have gone the other direction without even considering it, you know, so it's.
I guess we were worried about price. I would have, you know, met with Kevin and asked him if he would take the other machine that we have to offer. And he told me specifically the model that he wanted was the 140 M3, which is now the 150 M3. And I believe RDO had the same meeting with them, and he told them what model they wanted. He wanted them to bring to the table today.
Right, my email said they're large machine, it didn't specify.
So the 140 versus the 872?
That's a little.
So the bid specs, they stated 39,650 for weight, and if you look at your specs right here, the base weight on an 872 is 39,650. It's nothing to do with CAT.
Just for conversation's sake, I'll make a motion to accept the bid that meets specs
From Caterpillar.
from Caterpillar.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to that effect. Discussion? Discussion? Pretty large ticket item here.
I guess I'm just trying to wrap my head around it, because I struggle, I mean, I understand the concept of, you know, when we have a spec out there, we want it to meet spec, but at the same time, if the John Deere machine is better than the one we have now,
Then it must be.
then
Well, certainly it's gonna
why,
be-
why wouldn't we be happy with it? And it saves us $152,000.
Well, it's lighter.
It's a little, well, is it lighter than the 870 currently? It is. Okay, I didn't understand, I guess it was right.
However, it's still got more blade pull because of the all-wheel drive.
Right.
So it's gonna pull harder than the machines that you have right now.
What is the weight difference between the two?
I don't know.
I mean, is
Maybe 2,000 pounds-ish. So I mean, it's not huge when you're talking a machine that's that big.
From 870 to 772, is that correct, the number we're using? Yeah. 2,000 pounds, you think about a ton, is that right?
I mean,
And weight.
we're talking between the 772 and the ones we currently have.
I don't know.
No,
That's what I'm thinking, one more ton.
Or you're talking between the two the machines that were bid,
correct.
it's about a ton. So what are the old 870s weight? They're heavier than the 772?
Very similar in weight. I don't have the exact spec in front of me, but it's very similar in weight.
The all-wheel drive is what's gonna make the huge difference between the 870 and the 772 and the blade pull and
The
torque and
eight-
the power.
the
Yeah, I wanna
870
ask
they're
you-
running right now is 3,000 pounds lighter than the 150.
I want to ask you this question, is there such a thing as putting weights on a blade? I don't know.
I
Yes.
think you can have a plate on the front there between the snowplow and
I guess, I don't know if I want them in the front, but I guess they have them.
You can put weights on it.
mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure, a blade would do this. I know tractors, you can weight them up, fluid up the tires or whatever you want to do. Do we have a motion and a second?
Kevin, what was your budget for these items? Did you have one or in mind, or?
Yeah, it was about 800,000.
But, I mean, based on everything that we've heard, I mean, you would feel more comfortable with the cat that meets the spec, or do you feel like ambivalent, I guess is sort of the question.
I was hoping for a bigger machine, yes, and that was my email too, that I told them we're trading in a big machine, we want to bid a big machine.
Okay.
No other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept Caterpillar bid. No other questions? Roll call.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brett,
I,
Olson,
Aye.
Lightpon.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye. Okay. Thank you, both groups, for attending.
And we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Better head into our hearing.
Yeah, we'll stop that. We'll pick up on this a little later, Kevin, we'll do that.
Okay.
First.
Good.
Excuse me.
How do we do that? With water, just regular.
Just regulate
If Carrie said that if anyone was here to voice.
Do we have to physically read it since it's the first reading?
Post it, so we post it.
It's been sitting on my counter since.
I mentioned it on copy time, I mentioned it on copy time that anyone could come in, talk to the auditor's office, get a copy, or give us a call.
Yes.
But I didn't know if we physically, since it's the first reading, have to actually physically read it or not.
No, she didn't specify.
I guess I was gonna ask Carrie, but I forgot.
Yeah, contract,
Oh.
okay.
She
Okay.
just said that if anyone was here to,
Is there anybody here to voice their opinion on the first hearing of the lodging and restaurant tax? Nobody here to do that? Okay.
Can I make one mention?
Go ahead.
In thinking about it, when I was looking at how I put this together, we're gonna have to, if we go through this first hearing, second hearing, pass it, and enact it, we're going to have a agreement put together with the chamber, with tourism. So the question would be, we're gonna put 2 people on that board, it's gonna make the board bigger. Should we put in this that we're gonna stagger those terms of the people that we're gonna put on? Because they're gonna be 4-year terms, because the match what's on there now. Should we stagger those terms, or should we just appoint 2 people at the same time?
Let me ask you this question, how many are on the board now?
There's 7, so we're gonna add 2 to make it 9.
And we have to put 2 people on, is that right, Sue?
That's how I wrote it,
Yeah.
because when we talked about it in previously, it was, you know, since it's gonna be restaurant and lodging, try to get one person that, you know, was on the lodging side, maybe try to get one restaurateur, or if we can get that mix. And, you know, and our portion of the total dollars that are gonna go into the committee are gonna be, you know, small in comparison, but 2 people out of the 9 probably is a fairly decent ratio on equaling it out, so.
Well, that's a good idea, stagger them.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if we should write that we want to stagger them in here to start the terms. We can make that change, it doesn't have to be made today. But.
Good.
And then the other thing I was gonna say is Susie asked Williams County, they sent an email back. They already have done this and passed it. It's going to go into effect January 1, and then they'll start collecting in March, correct? I can't remember, you sent me an email
To be
on it.
honest, I'm not sure how Williams County is doing it, or when they passed it. But from what I understand is once it's passed through the county, then you give the restaurants and lodging establishments 60-day notice
Yeah.
to start collection, but the state will only start on a quarter. So if it's passed between now and January 1, they won't start collections till April 1st.
So that's what it's saying. So
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
I do have it.
Yeah, I'm not sure when they pass theirs.
So basically, we would be looking at passage, enactment, sending out notice, and then starting to collect April 1.
Okay.
There's more information.
Anything else you want to put in there?
No, that's all I was thinking about when I was looking at it the other day. So I'll make note that I should just make a little change on the language. State terms.
Okay, nothing else on there? Lodging, restaurants? Okay, Kevin, go back to you. Go ahead.
I need a motion to hold the second hearing.
Okay, that's right.
We're gonna do that the first meeting, we have to set time again.
If we do it today, we have enough time for the
2 weeks.
19th.
I make a motion that we have the next hearing at, what, 6 PM?
5:45.
5:45?
Figure out.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the next hearing
Can't get-
on, what day is it then?
19th.
Okay,
Yep.
at 5:45. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. That good then?
Yep.
Okay, Kevin.
Okay. John Deere for rental tractors this summer has honored the same rental rates as they had this year. And they normally start ordering them in December, so they get them right in time. So I just need a motion to go ahead and rent those tractors again.
So,
Just a second. Have we ever put out that we were interested in having everybody bid for tractors?
You know, it's been a few years, but no, we haven't recently. But I remember when we did do that a few years ago, that they weren't even interested because these rates were extremely low. But I could check again,
How many years back did we do it?
probably 4 or 5.
Not that I've got nothing against John Deere, I just, we should maybe open the door
We drive down here.
and, let,
We probably got time,
we got time to
so
do
I
it.
will check with,
Is this
Especially after today, I think we should do that. I just thought in good faith.
Is this the rate that's honored through the Association of Counties?
yeah, they contract with all the counties that way.
Okay, see, so my, and I mean, it's good to check into it, but my guess is that the Association of Counties goes to all of the different large manufacturers and they get the best rate. You know, they're probably bid specking, or bidding it and saying,
Okay,
you know,
I
and
can check on
then they're
that
bringing
too.
it back to those. I'm not guaranteening that, but I think that would be something to look into before we approve.
I'll check on that.
check on that. come back next meeting?
Yep.
Well, my guess is they talked to RDO and they talked to Butler
Let's just
and
do
they
it.
talked to
At
Titan.
least say we did it anyway.
Yeah.
They usually like to order them first part of December, so yeah, we got plenty of time.
Okay.
Or maybe it was some upset people today. So. Okay,
That's all I have.
that's all you got?
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Let's do that discussion on the October storm, all that. Who wants to go first? Steve? Their names on here, so.
We had a storm.
And a storm.
Yes, we did.
We got 3 bills here, huh?
I guess maybe that's where I come in, okay?
Well,
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks commissioners for allowing me to come here to explain kind of the series of events that took place on that day. First of all, it started out, with the storm, and then we received a call for service. It was originally called in as an accident, and due to the conditions, I ordered our truck not to go on that call because I knew the rural had a 4-wheel drive, thinking that that would be the better choice. So we kind of rallied our troops to go respond with that, followed up by a 4-wheel drive pickup. Through the process of trying to respond to this vehicle, it was extremely difficult. Okay, so they told the pickup, because of the conditions, to turn around and go back because it was just impossible to keep going. So the 4-wheel drive fire truck from the rural fire department responded. They did get to that particular vehicle and were able to recover that person stranded. That truck then returned, and then a series of other calls came in, okay? And due to the condition, there was calls for service to go to Church's Ferry, there were calls to go to service up east of town, and there were calls for services to go north of town up as far as Garski. And due to the conditions, our vehicles were not able to respond to these accidents or these events, people stranded. So we started putting our heads together, thinking of what our options were to, and I'm sorry Steve wasn't part of that, so didn't have a conversation. But throughout when this was taking place, I did call the emergency manager to get him involved. But anyway, we needed to come up with some vehicles that were able to transport people. And then we got one call that there was a potential diabetic and they had a concern whether or not they could spend time up there. But anyway, I directed, we made some calls, we were able to come up with some vehicles, to put out a plea on Facebook to see what we could get for transport vehicles that could drive in these type of conditions. I made a call to Blake's, they graciously accepted, they got a, what do they call those, snow bears, they brought one of those in. We called Kyle at the Cove, he brought a track machine that was on his excursion. And we tried calling Ackerman's, but he had sold his snow bear, but we were given a name of Jake Sanders. We made a phone call to him, and along with that, we did use Search and Rescue's track machine. And so then we put a game plan together of how we were going to respond, what was the priorities. And through this process, we sent Kyle and Jake east to pick up, I believe they picked up about 13 people stranded in vehicles all the way out towards the rest area. And we sent the track machine to Church's Ferry, which I think recovered about 9 people stranded. And then we sent a snow bear north to get the people that were, one was a potential diabetic and another one was a trucker that was stranded. So all this kind of took place within the entire day. And now there's 3 invoices submitted for their time. I called out to Blake's to find out what a charge would be, a fair charge rate. And that's where the $200 per hour came in. And we figured that these people, they put themselves in jeopardy. Jake, he helped us, Kyle helped us, Blake did allow us to use their machine. And then, so we felt that $200 an hour, and it was about 3 hours each that they provided service. And I'm just requesting that the county support us on this, this event that took place. I believed it to be the county's more falling in line because of the potential of getting an emergency declaration and possibly getting reimbursed. But hopefully we don't have many of these circumstances, but it's one of those things that I guess if it was any of our family members, we wouldn't want them sitting out there for the entire duration of the storm. So I felt that I made the calls on this and I will stand behind it. and I'm hoping for your support on this invoice.
That's a high volume of people that are stranded out on the road.
There was quite a few, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, there were 2 people that did spend the night further out east. That didn't get to,
I think there was 2 dead.
towards Joanne or someplace, yes.
No, I mean, I think you absolutely did the right thing. You know, I mean, from my view, of course, we don't want, you know, much rather spend money than lives, right? The only thing that I would say in the future, and I'm happy to vote yes to reimburse for this, maybe we can work with the emergency manager to set up sort of a stated reimbursement amount, so that should this happen in the future, you know, when you're making.
I bet you it happened.
But
Well, we did get together, we made a phone call to Bismarck hoping that they would make a reimbursement to us, and basically they told us no.
Yeah, we didn't use state funds or state equipment, so we couldn't get state funding.
Gotcha. But I mean, just so that we've got,
Totally
you know,
agree.
even if it's $200, you know, just so that it's all clear in the beginning, you know, one of the things that I could see happening is somebody goes out for their time and says, well, my time is worth $800 an hour, and that's what I want.
Well, there's times when it's kind of emergency too, and you gotta make that call quickly. And I'd probably, I'll take the blame for not calling the sheriff, you know, but at that time, the law enforcement said no law enforcement was going out, no snowplows were going out, and we had to make some choices.
No, I mean, I totally think you did the right thing. I just think that seeing what happened and how it worked, you know, just for the future.
And we have no problem working together on that.
You know, you did the right thing by taking these snow bears, but they didn't have to travel on the road. That's
And
why
they
the
have
last place
GPS.
you want to be is on the road,
Right.
because you don't know what's coming down that road, or what's there.
And they still struggled with them. They were not the ideal machine, but they worked.
Yeah,
You know, they only go 20, 25 miles an hour.
ground was soft,
Yeah.
you know.
And then if they got on gravel, it kicked them into the, you know, they weren't happy people coming back, the guys that were operating.
I bet, yeah.
They weren't.
But they came back.
But
That was
they
the
came
important
back.
part.
And the track machine of the counties and the sheriff's office, you know, that went to Church's Ferry and with a couple of our guys.
I would, yeah, I don't have a problem paying the bill at all. I mean, you know, people would ask me, I said, well, you guys are done. And what are we gonna solve this in the future? I mean, does the
Well-
state have any idea? I mean, it's their highways, I mean.
Yeah, you know, that's a good question. When it's a time of emergency, if we have to make calls, we have to do what we have to do. And unfortunately, sometimes we have to call and get people's equipment that can do the job,
Right.
not worry about the cost until after the fact.
But Chris, when you talk to the state, do they have any solutions to this? Does it fall on the counties and the city and the rural fire department, the city fire department, and any
Well-
volunteers you can find? Is that kind of just like, here, it's your ball, you
Well-
do it? What are they?
Yeah, a little bit about everything you said. There is a process they like to see, you know, and using.
These types of things, though, we don't really have a process,
No.
time for a process.
No, and that is one of the problems that they did see existing. They said your mutual aid, you know, maybe was there a gentleman in Doyen with a snow bear that could have got to those people and just brought them to their house, but then, you know, you're putting the jeopardy of putting people in someone's house. So there's no real
And
sense
you're sending
solution.
private people out that aren't the responders too, and that's kind of touchy
Right.
too, so.
Yeah, we've got one running in October, you know.
Right.
maybe
That was
January,
part of the
everybody had
issue.
one
A
running.
lot of them didn't have them ready.
Yeah.
And so it took a little time for them to get mobilized.
That's right.
And then when the resources that we have is the one track machine.
But you
Maybe
know,
it's
these
time
people
for-
really stepped up to the plate.
Oh, I
I mean,
agree with you, yeah.
they could have easily said, no, I'm not interested in helping my own safety or their families, you know, but they did, they were happy to do it. so.
Oh, yes, yes.
And I understand it, fortunately, it's not a huge amount of money.
Yeah, it's, what did you say, it was
It's $1,800
That's what I
all
figured,
told with all
okay.
3 vendors.
Yeah, well, I mean, just to continue this along, I would make the motion that we do reimburse for the full amount requested and make sure that these people are reimbursed for their time and efforts in helping this community. But I would also say that I think I'd like to see some amount of money probably put into the emergency manager's budget annually, just in case this should happen again. And then maybe to standardize a kind of a rate set so that we don't ever get blindsided by what it's gonna cost to do this. But other than that, that's just my sense of the thing, that's my motion.
Okay,
Andy's gotta make sense of that one.
I got a few questions for Chris. Did you talk to any other counties that did rescues? And who paid the bills for those?
Nelson County went out with their fire department to what they could get to. They had the same problem, they left people, a lot of counties left people out. They tried getting to as many as they could. Of course, they were using their fire trucks for the most part, or their emergency vehicles, I should say, because I know there was a few four-wheel drive pickups being used in other counties. But they went to where they could, so that's just out of your own kindness of the hearts of the people working that day.
If it's a state highway, why didn't a state plow go down it?
You're asking the wrong guy.
So
They already asked that question.
Yeah, on record.
I got one other question I might ask today on the state highway.
Just so on record, if the fire departments, either city or rural, could have got to them, there'd have been no charge for any of that either. We don't charge for those services
Right.
either. And but our vehicles, if we'd have put that big truck of ours in the ditch, it would have cost us a lot more to get it out of there and probably wreck things, and it would have been way above what that money was, so. But we would respond, and we wouldn't have charged anybody had we been able to use our equipment to get to it. Hopefully it's a unique
And then I want to
situation.
know what Steve's thoughts are.
Well, like I said, we weren't able to respond either. The state pulled their plows at noon. The highway patrol said, we're not going anywhere. We went as long as we could till our guys got stuck. We got them, said we can't go anywhere.
Fine.
Kevin pulled the plows. We did, on our side of this, we did tell everybody that called in that said they were stranded that if you have a medical emergency, we'll do everything in our power to get you. If it's not a medical emergency, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to stay where you are until we can get to you. And we were calling them every hour or every 2 hours at a minimum to check on them. We did not leave them sitting there without any, but reality was, like I said, we just can't get to everybody all the time.
Right.
If there would have been a medical emergency, we would have called Kevin and a plow or a front end loader and we would have got to him. The diabetic didn't say anything about his diabetes until we said, unless it's a medical emergency, we can't come get you. Well, then I got diabetes. Well, okay, you understand when it was kind of one of those, but, there was, not a whole lot that could be done other than what we did.
No.
Yeah.
And
Everybody was trying to do the best they could.
Yeah, and I think
And
that's-
Kevin thankfully got the big drift out of the front of our door for our track vehicle so we could get that out. But, I had offered that to the police department because nobody plowed out the LEC and they couldn't go anywhere to respond to anything, even in the city of Devils Lake. So, we were trying to get, luckily we got it down to the fire hall where they did, we were able to use it for a time.
And we had to use it on a couple of CO calls because they were covered up with snow too, so it did prove beneficial, along with getting the snow plow to the fire station, so we had all that stuff there. So I think everything went well, considering we kinda got hit real hard with it.
We won't ever see another storm like that.
I hope you're right.
Oh, don't say that.
Brings back memories of '66.
97? 97, we had one every week for how many weeks in a row?
Yeah, we hope that doesn't happen.
Anyway, there's my,
When we ask people to volunteer and go out and provide search and rescue like this, is there a liability issue that?
We could, if we do basically a commandeer, we are covered with, when we request it and of someone individual, we can protect them. We're covered through NDFI or Earthquake Insurance Reserve.
Okay.
Is the county covered? We don't know.
I don't know that answer.
Candy?
As far as I recall, unless there's an MOU, unless there's some type of agreement signed ahead of
We should
time,
find out.
I don't know that answer. I don't know if,
We should find out.
I would think India, Earthquake Insurance Reserve would cover you. When you tell them you need them, they will.
Maybe that's something to work on, so if we do wanna do this as standard operating procedure in the future, if we do get in a situation again, talk to the people ahead of time and have an MOU or something in place with a rate set that says, hey, if we need to use your services, use what you have. so we don't get ourselves in a bind, yeah.
Yeah, if we were wreck something big time, that
In
might.
past years, we have always had I would call it a gentleman's agreement with Joe's Sports Center and what used to be Halverson's, which is now, and we could call them and they would provide us with whatever, and here it is. Whatever we could, this storm, Joe's provided the police department 2 snowmobiles for use, just to use, so they could get, if they had to get, they could at least get somewhere to do something.
I know they took dispatchers home and brought them.
Well, that's a whole other, they did something else there too, but they had to pay out of their pocket for that as well.
Just also a note, anyone that got stranded in town that was close to a building or a restaurant or a motel, we did not go after them.
No.
We left them sit there because it was their foolishness that got them.
Yeah, but I know they had dispatchers home.
But maybe we could come up with some kind of agreement with these people that, hey, next time,
Yeah.
and we could avoid the charges of saying, hey, this doesn't happen very often. We can't really afford to purchase a vehicle and have them stationed, one at the fire hall, one at rural fire, one at the, and just in case that once every 10 years we have an incident that, occurs.
Will it start, will it run?
Well, somebody has to maintain it, somebody has to keep, you can't just let it sit there for 10 years.
I totally agree.
This is the
But if
best.
we could get an agreement where it's okay, in time of emergency, okay, yes, just, you're able to utilize it, use it, and there would be a reduced charge of maybe just gas, oil, gas, whatever,
Yeah.
instead of an actual rate of, okay, $200 an hour or whatever it is that, because it is for an emergency services purpose. And it's not, does that make sense?
Yeah,
You wanna look into that?
I can.
Okay.
so we're putting the onus on that onto the sheriff's department and not the emergency manager?
Well, either both of us, we'll both work on it.
You'll both work on it? I mean, I guess, to me, I have no problem, looking taxpayers in the eye and telling them why I'm willing to pay somebody $200 an hour to do emergency services, because I don't ever wanna look at a widow or a parent or a child and tell them, yeah, we got the call, we just didn't rise to it,
Well, we already had a call like that the gentleman's house in Webster burnt to the ground, because nobody could get to it. So that's already happened this winter, this storm. He called and he was but we couldn't get there. I mean, there was no way to physically, no fire department, nobody could get there. What do you do? That happens sometimes, I'm sorry to say, but it's,
I understand.
Well, we give it a gallon effort. I think they
I'm
did.
we would, we did, but it's just like, I'm sorry, we.
Well, and if that's the case, that's the case.
Yeah.
But I still think it behooves us to do basically what Mr. Frank had the initiative to do, and do that. And I think that the people that provide their time, they should be compensated for getting out there, showing people that we reward them for acts of courage in the face of an emergency.
So if the county enacts an emergency measure for that storm period, are they eligible for reimbursement from the state for DES?
Check that out.
No, I don't think we are.
No, you're not.
Because it's a temporary condition, it's not a full-blown event.
If it was a presidential declaration, we might be able to. But
So the funding is gonna come from us no matter what, and it's very hard to budget for that, any year.
Well,
Anyway, just thoughts.
the funding, we should look into that.
Yeah.
Legislators can write some paperwork to take care of some of that too. There's no reason they can't have some type of a fund for emergency services.
We do, I thought that's what we paid into for, but evidently that's not eligible for this.
Really?
Yeah. Remember the county pays, what do we pay to that, insurance reserve fund that, remember we didn't participate for many years, and then it was like $600 a year. And then they talked us into doing it, and that was for a SWAT team to respond, a hazmat team to respond, any special organization that we not necessarily have, like Grand Forks SWAT, or, if they had to come here, you were able to go to that fund. Search and rescue was involved in that fund, that if they responded to assist, they could get reimbursement for equipment and vehicle usage, not salary. But, they could reimburse their what, and so, but evidently they're saying that's not eligible. Anyway, enough of that. Things we can check into and get back to you on.
We're in a second.
You just have a motion?
I'll say.
We got a second?
Get us.
Any other discussion?
I have one more question now. Okay, so a city employee decided this. Maybe the city should pay half of this. Why should the county get stuck with the bill again? I mean, I'm all for being the nice guy, but, you know, we pay a lot of these bills and, you know, maybe the city should be part of this.
I'm sure Jim.
It was
Jim
under
would
the
have
direction
an
of
answer
the
for
city
that.
employees.
I don't have an objection, but I mean, but it was in the county that we responded to. I didn't respond to the ones in the city. And that's the only argument I have towards it. I'm all about supporting it, I mean, but that would have to be presented to my.
We'll get something worked out.
And I agree, maybe there should be a fund and maybe the city and county should both probably look into supplying a fund to it.
I think that
Because
that
then
would
it
make
would make
sense.
our decision process a whole lot simpler when we make that call.
There you go.
You know, I'm not objecting to that whatsoever.
We're not sitting there, well, who the hell's gonna pay for this then?
No, exactly, you know, and I don't know what the dollar amount should be, but
But if there's a fund there,
if there's a fund that was supported by both entities, I think that would be appropriate.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the city would have a big issue with that either in the future.
I mean, because
With
most,
the
most,
discretion of the police chief, sheriff, and the
most
fire chief,
years it would never be used,
probably.
right? I
not.
mean, so it, but I think, I agree. I think that that's a good decision, and I think we ought to bring the city on board with that. You know, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Okay,
I just don't think we should put the full bill for it. I mean,
well, we're kind of between a rock and a hard spot here.
yeah, I understand.
In the future, I think we can work something out. You know, I think if these services were rendered in the county should provide for them, and if the county's not willing, I'll pay out of pocket to reimburse these people.
Maybe after the Corps takes over the O&M on the dike, we can put those funds towards an emergency
There you go.
fund.
I thought that was done here about a year ago, but we still get the bill.
That's what I thought too, but it must be still.
It's been a political promise, I think. Okay. Any other questions? Let's have a roll call.
Whose budget is this coming out of?
Pardon me?
Whose budget?
Oh, we budget, now you got another question.
I would say pull it from the general.
Take it from the
Emergency
general.
fund. There's an emergency fund.
I didn't think you were gonna be tough.
You have to have a resolution for that.
Right, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We got money in the general, don't we? That way we don't affect the EM or sheriff's budget.
That's just take
Okay.
We'll do roll call now?
Yep.
Okay.
Fritz,
Aye.
Olson,
Nay.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brown.
Aye,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, thanks for coming over.
Hey, appreciate it, and thank you for the support, and I will work on maybe putting some money in my budget for something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe if we can have a sit-down conversation with some of the city commissioners. I mean, it's probably too late to set it up for this coming year, but, you know, to at least work out the words on paper. Go ahead, Steve.
What,
Just sitting down with people and getting an agreement, I agree. But where does the state fall into this? Federal and state highways were involved in this whole thing. How come, you understand my point?
I
agree.
So I think they should be at the table as well and have something available to us to make it easier for us to get reimbursement at least through the funding we have. So I think they should be included in that conversation. That's just,
Through DES and our legislators to make them appropriate some money.
I think that would make sense. Maybe we do invite some of the state legislatures, and that's a pretty no-brainer bill that I think people could really get behind to say. Because in terms of what it would cost the state,
Exactly.
it's nothing, right? But it makes people feel.
but it's the
good
paper
and safe
trail
and
and all these little
protected.
fine little things that you have to follow, and also they deny it, and it's something that was needed. It's just very frustrating on our side, Chris and what we deal with a long time is applying for that state money is almost impossible, and that's what it's there for. And they're saying, no, you're not gonna get it. Well, why is it there? But anyway, so just keep that in if you wouldn't. Thank you.
we'll get it worked out.
Yep, I believe so, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We got everything above new business covered, right?
I'm just looking at, we got jumped around. Looks good.
We're ready to go on new business. Approval of letter for transfer on funds, you got two of them.
I'll make a motion to approve both.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the letters of transfer, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hang on a second here.
Go ahead.
The letters of transfer, we're transferring the funds.
Right.
Why is that emergency management meeting?
Because we pay for half of his budget, the other half,
Comes
It's
from
from the
DES,
state.
right?
and that's our half.
So we ran out of the DES money, so we had to roll our half in now.
Well, it's like with a lapse.
Yeah.
From not having anybody, no money.
Yeah, we usually run out in July.
I'll just give it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Everybody all right?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Chairman Brown, I have a quick question for Steve, because he seems to wander around the door. Somebody here asked about the radiator.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Yeah,
What happened on the, we had a radiator and an AC condenser, I thought maybe we hit something, or just regular maintenance? Radiator and
On
an
a
AC
vehicle?
condenser on a vehicle through your budget.
$2,700.
Oh. Oh.
There must be a story.
Oh, no, well, we fixed it, I'm done, I put on, now I remember what you,
Oh, okay.
this is a long story. You're really gonna hear
We'll
it.
get you next time.
Anyway, it was needed, it wasn't anything.
Yeah.
What happened was, there was a rub, one of the coolant lines that goes to the back on the Durango rubbed, and then as they said it was a drip on the radiator, well, then they found out it was this rub on this line that goes all the way to the back.
It wasn't working?
No, of course not. It all had to be replaced, and then to repair the radiator was about 2/3 the cost of a brand new one, so we put a brand, nobody hit nothing, it wasn't a.
Okay, no, I just saw it and I thought, and it didn't say any body work, so I just thought.
No, it
I
wasn't-
wonder
it
what
was
happened,
a-
I wonder what happened.
Yeah, that's the short story.
That makes sense.
You
Okay.
just asked it early on
Yeah,
before.
thanks
you
for
said
remembering.
that. I thought, well, yeah, that's pretty great.
I'm just.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
I'm fine with paying.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
To Bill,
Okay.
Thanks.
thank you. Now we'll go on to the next one, approved human service zone agreement. Any questions on that?
I had a question on the membership.
Yes.
Is there a length of term? Or is that a life appointment?
Life. I hope not.
Or is it life sentence?
It's life sentence, I think, yeah.
That's something I didn't.
I believe,
I don't know that that was ever discussed.
I think it's in the legislation though, isn't it? That you have to reappoint occasionally. I can't remember what the years are on it, but I couldn't tell you straight off out of
I
hand.
think everybody was assuming we do it the same as the existing social service board now.
Oh, that would
Ba-
make,
That's
Basic-
what I was assuming.
that would make sense.
Yeah. Well, basically at this point, how I understand it is we've structured the board now.
Yeah.
But once the board sits as the actual board, we still have to put together, this is just like the prelim, this is what we're going to do agreement. This isn't the full agreement. So once the board sits January 1 and has their first meeting, then we've got to put together the agreement in length, and that'll probably be covered in there, would be my guess.
So this is more like the agreement in principle rather than the final
Yes,
agreement?
I believe so.
I can check into it.
Work, a piece of work in progress.
Yeah.
Any other questions on it? Pretty long, I think. I don't know. I'll leave it by.
That's what the human,
That's what they wanted?
that's what they want.
Checking us out?
That's what DHS wanted,
Yeah.
apparently.
Yes.
Want to get to know us, so.
When they get to know us.
What did that bylaws in there?
Yeah,
I didn't read it close.
yeah, it's got bios of the people that put in this, that are on board as well.
Oh.
Okay, any other questions?
Do we have to approve the letter of explaining and the contract, or just the zone contract?
It's,
All
she gave
one?
it to me, it's all one.
All one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, here's something to your point, Jeff, and just at this point in time, I don't know. Let's see here. It doesn't say about term length here, but it does say, the appointing Board of County Commissioners may adopt a resolution to remove an appointed member of the Human Service Zone Board without cause.
Without cause,
The
right?
Board of County Commissioners may not remove the presiding officer or the human, so. I don't know if it's in the law or not, I'd have to go back and look. If you're looking for a job, is that what you're asking?
No,
I mean,
I just,
you're more than welcome.
I was feeling for you and Ed, you know, you had to be on there forever.
I think it's like everything, the minute you get off this board, then you can get rid of all the other jobs.
I'd go on ahead and make a motion to approve the
Okay,
human service zone.
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Lodging increase, approve lodging increase, how much is that? Over there.
8460 to 8640.
Got
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second.
We have a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Community Development Block Grant Project.
Move to approve.
Second.
This was the doors at the jail.
Yeah, completely finished?
Yeah.
Look good.
Yeah, they do look good.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Completion of certification.
No, that's from the previous
Oh,
line.
excuse me, approved disaster declaration. Yeah, let's go there and do that.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Just for a little more background there, we have to come up with $43,000, almost $44,000 worth of damage. Don't know if we'll get there, but we're gonna try.
What counts as damage? Just any roads or, you count trees?
Trees?
Yeah. Could I count, I've got a bunch of trees busted in my yard, that's worth money, come on. I have to go down to Mark's and buy new trees.
I would say no unless public hazard.
I'm just trying to help us get to the 43, come on.
Well,
But this 1,800 would,
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's anything that public dollars would go to, so like in town, if you had, like you said, public health, like a tree came down across the road or something, they had to go out and take it down and took their time.
Did we vote on that disaster? We did.
Yep, we have a motion and a second.
I think the biggest problem you're gonna have, Kevin, is next spring with those full culverts. You know, there's no place for water to go.
Right.
I was talking with guys up north, I was in Edwards, Sunday night for the city.
and if they freeze shut, then the water's gonna go to the road.
Yeah, they said they're running full, they're gonna freeze shut,
Yeah.
they're freezing shut full. We're gonna have road problems next spring with,
I think we'll have significant road issues next spring with the way their water is.
they said
And
that,
those things don't thaw out real easily, do they?
No.
they said there's already a foot of frost.
Yeah.
How long do these disaster declarations go into effect? Like,
Yeah, they-
now,
they
you know, year to
generally-
year, wasn't it?
They have a starting date and an ending date. I mean, if, for instance, let's say they put the ending date today, just to talk out loud, so any damage that would occur this spring would be a separate disaster.
Yeah, this is specifically for stuff off of this last road.
But all these other counties are gonna have the same problems.
Oh, absolutely, especially the red
This
river
is sort of
ones.
the question, what's the lake elevation at right now?
And 4880, just about. It was 4878 last night. So, and Morrison's gone up over a foot in the last month.
Yeah.
A lot of
Well, I mean-
water flowing into that.
Am I incorrect in remembering that that's about where we were at the start of the year? Were we at
Pretty close.
Yeah, out there,
We're probably 48.9.
yeah. So, you know, I think our high last spring was 49.1, 49.2 maybe, right in that neighborhood. But, yeah, and next spring is gonna be extremely interesting. You know, it's been my experience every year that we've flooded or had a major increase in lake elevations, we've always gone into the fall extremely wet. Not necessarily so much how much snow we received in the winter, but how much moisture there was
in the ground? Yeah.
in the fall. No, we could get a perfect melt next spring, you know, where it's 35 during the day and 25 during the night for 45 days, but those are extremely rare.
Or no moisture all winter.
Or no moisture all winter.
Open winter, whatever.
That's rare.
And that's rare.
Oh, we'll have to keep that in mind on that ending date,
Yeah.
how to handle that.
With the declaration, it also helps the farm insurance programs too, so.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on then, disaster declaration, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Approve the asset forfeiture fund and procedure, I guess that's put in place, I guess now.
Looks pretty good. I'll make a motion to approve.
Adam has a motion,
I'll
we have a
second it.
second, we have a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, discussion on land access pilot project.
So I don't know if you want me to take this on, Candy. Candy and I and Steve were involved in a conference call they had last Thursday morning. Association of Counties, some other counties across the state. We've been asked to participate in a pilot project to study the land access electronic posting type of thing. And I'm assuming since we have such a robust GIS parcel viewer program that's available is probably why they chose us. You know, there's some counties out there that don't have electronic parcels and things like that, so I'm thinking that's probably why they've asked us to take a look at that. And you can recall last legislative session, this was a very heated discussion throughout the session, ended up getting voted down as far as an electronic or all private land being posted without being posted kind of thing. And then having electronic access is what they're looking at.
Well, that's a good point, you know, could that GIS software be updated to include, you know, so people look at it and put an overlay on it and know whether land is posted or not posted?
That's what the law was supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's what the law is intended to do.
And then the onus would be on the landowner to be able to go on there and then put it green, you're always allowed on, or yellow, contact the landowner for specific situation.
And so what they want us to do is participate in this pilot program. There'd be no change in any current laws or regulations. You know, so if a hunter went online and found that this land looked electronically open and got up to where he wanted to hunt and there was a posted sign there, he'd have to go by that sign in the field.
Right.
Kind of thing. So it wouldn't change that, they just want to see how this would work, if it would work, what kind of changes could be recommended and made, and for upcoming next legislative session. And they're looking for.
What do you think our landowners want us to do? That's my question. I mean, I don't know.
What's your opinion as a landowner?
You don't want automatic posting?
Automatic posting?
Yeah.
That don't bother me at all. But
Well, essentially, that's what they're trying to do. Because right now, if you don't post, your land is open. There's no
I
trespass.
understand that.
Yeah, I know you understand that, but just for,
No, I know what you're saying.
I'm
just curious.
I like the theory behind this.
We have a lot of landowners.
Yeah, simply because, I mean, most of the hunters, you know, I don't post anything. I let it, anybody wants to go on can go on, but I like people to come talk to me, obviously, but I don't post it.
Your land is not posted.
No, they can go on if they want to.
Okay.
But everybody that I've dealt with, and I think probably most people just know now,
Yeah.
that they come and talk to me because they talk to other people that have hunted it and stuff. But I like the idea because most of the hunters I talk to now, they come out and hunt, they've all got something on their phone, some type of a program, some GIS software that tells them where they need to go and stuff. So if you had a system like they're trying to put in place where when the law gets passed, it automatically posts it, then it's on you to say, I'm willing to let somebody hunt on my land. Now, for the hunters and the sportsmen, I can understand where that would be frustrating for them. Because then if you got people that aren't gonna do anything like that, then everything's automatically posted, it makes it a lot harder for them to find a place to hunt. So I can see both sides of the equation. I don't mind the concept behind this, but again, I'm not a hunter, so to me, I'm looking at the landowner side of it.
But you could always offer a paper map version, like here in the county offices, or you could, you know, I mean, if hunters really weren't tech savvy, they could just stop in and say, could you just tell me where this stuff is?
The problem you'll run into most of the time is a lot of these pieces of land out and about, if they automatically post them, are owned by somebody from who knows where, California or Minnesota or wherever, so then you don't, and the plot maps don't tell you who farms it. So then you'll have hunters that have to run around from here to there and everywhere in the neighborhood trying to see who farms this one little plot of land. So then you're hoping that the farmer that you're talking to knows who farms that piece of land, and it turns into a lot for the hunters sometimes, I think. But at the same point, it's not a right to hunt, it's a privilege. So I mean, if you have to do a little bit of legwork, it's not the end of the world. Plus I think it's good when you know who's out there doing things and you get to know people. I mean, we've got groups that have been coming for, we have one group that's been coming for 35 plus years on.
But then if you put this out there, then Joe Blow from Minnesota can come over here and get on top of that piece of property before your people will come for years, because it's not posted. Correct?
No, it's gonna automatically post it, but if you put it green, yes, they could just jump it, but then you'll have the option to say, I want it to be yellow, so you can't hunt it. It's still technically posted unless you talk to me. The red basically just means always posted, don't even contact me, I don't want you on my land ever. The yellow means, I'm willing to let you hunt if you come talk to me, possibly, if nobody else is already on it.
Oh, I understand what they're doing, but they've created so much turmoil down there in Bismarck, with trying to get this done.
No, I know.
There was a lot of hostility, and it was difficult to be down there for a while, I know that.
Well, and I sat through one of those hearings too,
And
so it's tough.
Western North Dakota, they're very adamant about getting it shut up.
Yeah, I think the Stockmans are kind of the ones that are kind of pushing it, because they, and then I can understand, you know, if you get people to get on that don't talk to you, you don't know who they are, you run into situations sometimes where people rip the heck out of stuff. I mean, they just do, if they're not good hunters. They don't know to talk to people.
Well, and some of the western land is so, their tracts are so large, that trying to put up a poster every so often is.
The posting requirements under state law right now are
Yeah.
virtually impossible.
Does anybody know how many counties they've picked out here to try to do?
What they have on there, it was like 4 or 5 of us. It was us and Lawrence County and.
Some western ones?
You know, I'm not sure if they had,
As many as 3 counties participate in the pilot, it
I
says.
think it was Morton County was one of them that was on there, Richland.
Richland, Montreal.
I guess the next question is, this isn't gonna cost us.
That's what I was going to ask.
The Game and Fish is taking on all the costs, they're gonna do the software, they would just basically need access to our GIS.
Yeah.
They would need a one-time access to our GIS and kind of thing.
When do they need to know by?
They would,
Today.
Today?
I move to approve.
Excuse me.
Because they wanted it up and,
Does anybody want to
like,
second
by the
that?
first of the, close
close to the first of the year.
year, or shortly
It's
after.
not binding us into anything, it's not changing any of our rules, regulations, existing laws. All it's doing is having Ramsey County participate in this pilot project.
I take that as a second.
Yes, so hopefully what they can do is come up with appropriate legislation next session, based on the information that they receive from these pilot projects.
So since this isn't changing any of the current laws, then how is this gonna function? It's not gonna function the same way as what they were talking in the law. So basically, they're just trying to see if they can create through the Game and Fish like an overlay map.
Yep.
And then see how people can go in and use it from the landowner perspective and see how it's gonna function, basically. Everything's still gonna be the same, it's just they wanna know how hard it's gonna be to basically overlay the whole state if they have to do this.
Well, I mean, it might be that they invite landowners that they have, you know, the contact information for to go ahead and code their land.
Yeah.
You know, so here, hop on, code your parcels. You want them green, yellow, or red. Go ahead and code them, and then we'll have them on the thing so that people can go online and make sure they know.
And this just ties us up for next year then, before the next legislative session then. it's not gonna change anything on the ground, other than if people wanna go on and participate in the pilot, they can, and if they don't want to, they don't have to.
All they're gonna use is what we have here in the courthouse, basically. I mean, they're not,
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I think I'm fine with
So
at least.
they'll be doing all the notifications to landowners.
Right, that was one of the big.
I just wanna make sure we don't confuse people too.
Was, is it gonna cost the county anything? Are we gonna have to send out notices to landowners saying that this is what we're doing? And they said, no, that was the state's responsibility. So the state would incur that cost if there was a cost to it.
Are Game and Fish gonna have a good plan to go out and talk to people so that they don't confuse the living hand out of everybody?
Well,
they won't go talk to nobody.
Put it please.
yeah,
I think it's good to at least get some information for them to see how it's gonna function, and if it doesn't function at all, then they know
well,
this isn't a good system.
the other aspect is, as Susie concurred, would be that we have a tremendous sportsman opportunity here in the Lake region, and an incredible sportsman industry that, and so I'm sure they want to take a look at what kind of issues that we have up here in Ramsey County with the amount of hunters that we have come in on a regular basis, and what kind of issues they have and recommendations and different things like that. So it doesn't bind us to anything, and that's kind of why I like it. It's and maybe with the results of this, they can come up with a workable legislation come next session.
Okay, Adam, since you seem to know the most about this.
I don't know the most about anything.
So they're gonna call you and say, Adam Lightpond, do you want a green, red, or yellow? Is that what, that's?
I would assume they're gonna send out a letter and say you can hop on the Game and Fish website, and have a portal you have to get in through. How I understood the legislation, and granted, I'm not, like I said, I don't know everything about it, but how I understood it, basically, the law changed it, so everything is automatically closed. So the onus then is on the landowner if you want somebody to hunt your land, or allow people to hunt your land. Now, it doesn't affect plots land and stuff like that, because that's already automatically open to walk-in hunting. But
So then you're telling, all your land is gonna be closed?
The simplest way to look at
It
it,
would be
where
if-
South Dakota is,
yeah,
she's all shut up.
it shuts
If you're
everything
on
up.
that quarter land, you find out who owns it, and you chase them down.
It
Well,
would,
that's how it is now.
There's no posters.
that's not how it is
Everything's
now.
closed out.
Now it's not at all. Now, if you don't
Here.
have, if you don't
Well,
post it correctly.
but if there's a poster there, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but technically, even a posted sign, 90% of the
Yeah.
posted signs that are out there are not technically posted.
97.9.
Yeah, I mean, because technically, you're supposed to have it in a certain location, so many feet off the road, so many feet off the section line, it has to have all this information on it. The thing that says no trespassing by your name does not technically count. So, I mean, this has been a problem that's been going on forever. But the thing I think that I always want to reiterate with it is, if you're, like I said, I'm not a hunter, but if you're a good sportsman, you'll find who owns the land, you'll go talk to them.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not that complicated, and I understand guys get frustrated because there's certain people that don't let them on their land. But then go find somebody that will. There's
But
plenty
you
of
know
us
what?
out there.
From my point of view, being a hunter, 99 times out of 100, you get a yes.
Yeah.
You know, just for the fact that you asked.
Yeah, and then I just like when who's out there, so I
Oh,
can say, hey,
absolutely.
just stay away from here, give them a little bit of a
Yeah,
heads up, you know, it's
yeah.
muddy, stay out of there, park up there,
Yeah,
whatever.
no,
Okay,
Absolutely.
we'll see where this goes then. We got a motion, we got a second? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Discussion on North Dakota Fire and Tornado Fund transition. What are you doing here?
It's just kind of a name change, isn't it? More or less from fire tornado to North Dakota Insurance Reserve.
Are they taking over everything?
Yep. As a result of the North Dakota legislative session back in 2019.
We go to approve this, or just have a discussion?
Well, but the North Dakota Insurance Reserve wants to work with local agents within each county.
Okay.
So that's where the three letters from the three different, from Bremer, and then American, and then DBL Insurance showing interest in this portion of our insurance coverage.
Okay, then we're,
So we're like, right now, it's all handled through the state. Where the state is now going to kind of like, you know, put an arm out to a local agent
local vendors.
Yeah. to take care of that portion.
So the insurance is still going to be through, it's gonna be through Ender, but it's going to be essentially the local agent, whoever is selected, is selling an Ender policy.
Would work with,
Would work with.
Yeah.
Ender
Insurance
consultant.
Yeah, they're like the portfolio manager. if you
Oh,
look
which,
at it from a
which
financial
I think
context.
that makes sense to a point, because then you got somebody local to deal with when you have a problem and run your claims and all that, and kind of a point person.
Okay,
So do we have to approve the fact that these people want to be part of it, or that's something that happens elsewhere and it's just for
no,
us to know?
we have to choose
One of
one
the
of them.
agents. Can we schedule a time to have them come in and talk to us?
We're
Yes.
just put together,
I think we can, well, we could almost interview them, right? Or have somebody do that?
well, they're gonna have to put together,
did we advertise for this?
yeah,
I mean, like
Like an
local paper,
RFP,
we
yeah.
advertised that we were looking for vendors
No,
for this?
no, it's like the North Dakota Insurance Reserve made contact with
All the insurance?
all the insurance, because they made contact with me.
Okay, okay.
so we have these three agencies that are interested in doing it, now we have to pick one of them. Do we have a deadline we have to pick them by, or, you know, because this portion of our insurance has a certain coverage, scope, and dollar figure, I mean, they're gonna have to put together a proposal, each of them, on costs and,
This insurance is covering vehicles and maintainers?
No.
No?
No,
No, okay.
Buildings and.
this is
Covers buildings.
buildings,
I suppose the coverage cost wouldn't change though if the insurance is all
No.
gonna be through, so we just have
North
to,
Dakota
so they're
Insurance
making us
Reserve.
pick somebody?
Yeah, you're picking
Yes.
a representative, I guess.
Yes.
Because wouldn't
It's kind of odd.
wouldn't it be the DERF that reimburses them for their work? Right, I assume?
Okay, so part of the paragraph is, as point of clarification, the local agents will only be utilized for political subdivision. State agencies will continue to work directly with the North Dakota Insurance Reserve Fund for any policy changes or questions. So they're more or less,
Yeah, they're just our point person,
they're more,
we just need to.
they're more or less just adding
Well,
that second party to the group.
how do you essentially pick a winner without having any differences? Flip a coin, put them in a hat? Who do we have,
Yeah, you probably said it, put
who
them in a
do
hat.
we have our local coverage through now for our local stuff?
That's Bremer.
Bremer. So is it possible, so how many insurance companies do we change through when we do this? We go on how many year rotation do we go on? Three?
No, it's 4.
4, and then we have everybody rebid, correct? Or do we just roll to somebody else?
No, well, that's in the next part of the agenda, because we're on, I went back to 2014,
Okay.
is when a motion was made for insurance companies to be on a rotation.
Okay.
Because 2019 is coming to an end, so we either have to switch to the next one,
Stay on the same rotation.
or stay, you know, or change how we choose to do things with
Okay.
coverage.
Can this insurance reserve deal switch from one company from one year to the next? We can have a different insurance company next year?
I'm sure you can.
The same rotation, I mean? like,
What is our rotation for the 4-year period? Do we stay with the same company for all 4 years? And then we rotate?
And then we rotate.
So what companies have we been working with on the rotation?
Bremer,
Okay,
American,
okay,
Farmers Union is listed on here,
okay.
and then the
And then
DVL. It used to
DVL.
be- Yeah, it used to be K.
And so there's 4 of them we've rolled through on basis. Well, and 3 of them are on this.
Right.
So I guess my inclination, and I don't know how everybody else is feeling, is why wouldn't we want to work with one agent on everything? So if it's up right now, and we have 3 different agencies that wanna do this for us as well, why wouldn't we put it out on, I mean, to me, it doesn't make sense that we roll it around, why wouldn't we put it out on bids? And those, you know, those 3 agencies could,
And we're looking for a bid, I mean, how do we substantiate
I
the
don't know
bid?
how they would
I don't
bid.
know. Like,
well, it's off of everything we have. You got X amount of cars, you got X amount of this, and you, I mean, you got a baseline coverage level and a baseline premium cost. I mean, they can't tell you what your premium's gonna be next year, obviously, if you got 14 accidents or something like that, but, I mean, we can stay on rotation too, but my point is why don't we just have whoever we're gonna rotate to is one of those 3 companies, and they would just be the one that covers it. We would accept all vendors, but we would just use the same one that we're rotated to for those 4 years.
But, okay, sorry, I may have missed something here. Are all of the options through, for a representative for the DERF, are they the same options that we use?
Other than one, Farmers Union isn't on both lists. But Bremer, American, DBL, right now, we're with Bremer, who would we be rotating to next time?
To American.
Okay.
So then the next question is, what happens when it's time to rotate Farmers Union? Then do we skip rotating that year, this portion that's at the state? I mean, because this seems like it's gonna be complicated.
My input on the rotation,
Is that it's not necessary?
It's a lot of work for you, I'm guessing.
there is a lot of behind the scene, I mean, I don't want to say behind the scene, but a lot of work that it takes on our part when we change. Because the relationship that we have established now with Bremer, every person has our agent's cell phone number. Something happens, doesn't matter, time of day, weekend, holiday, anything. You call her, all she says, yep, I'll take care of it.
Maybe we should change that system to, instead of being kind of like a mandatory rotation, maybe we just reevaluate options every 6, whatever number of years, and then just say, can we get policy bids? And if one of the other ones came in, absurdly lower, then I think it would behoove the commission to maybe make a decision based on that. But I agree that kind of just rotating to rotate seems like you're making work for yourself.
And it used to be, on a yearly.
Yeah, that's
That was.
I just think it's reasonable that you should have a time frame to reevaluate, and then say, hey, okay, we're with Bremer now, we have X amount of vehicles that need to be covered, we have X amount of buildings that need to be covered. Just put together just a concept of, a spec of what it would cost to do it, and then we could look at all 3, and if they're all reasonably close and you're comfortable with who we're with, you stay with who we're with. If it's, like you said, an absurd difference in cost, we make a change. But I think it's a reasonable expectation that we have to do our best to try to get the coverage we need at the lowest cost. I mean, taxpayers are paying for it.
Yeah, no, but I agree. I think that I agree with Candy that is a lot of work for what seems, at least when we got presented with what the options were this time around, it seemed like it doesn't really matter. The policies are usually pretty comparable in cost. And that doesn't mean that they always will be, and I do think we do need to do due diligence and evaluate, but.
And 2, it's based on, all the claims throughout the year too.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, it's gonna change. If we had an earthquake and half the building fell down, obviously they're not gonna be at the same premium dollars. I mean, that's just how it is.
And I did send out an email to all the auditors, asking how they handled, the insurance part of that, and I got some back that if they receive, excellent service, they stick with who they have. There's ones that rotate on a yearly basis. I'm like,
that's a lot.
But it was some of the smaller counties that, there's ones that they put an ad in the paper you know, opening it up to everyone. And then there are ones that have like a you know, just very, I think there was 3 that had a rotation. But a majority of it was, they stick with one.
But do they reevaluate occasionally if they need to, or it's just a
Yep.
simple?
Yep,
And so we're covered through the end of the year without this change, basically, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So do we have to accept those 3 companies or one of them today, or do we say, can we say, you know, we want to reevaluate our coverage at the end of this year? Put together, the 3 companies that are going to focus on this one thing that we're talking about, put together proposals for our whole package, our whole portfolio, and then take a look at it just to reevaluate it, and like I said, if it's reasonably close and we're comfortable with who we're with, we can stay with who we're with. But otherwise, one of those other 2 companies, they're willing to do the whole package of insurance that we have. If they could come in with a good bid or a good idea that's gonna be cheaper, then we could talk about it at that point.
And this letter from Bremer, I don't know if you've read it, but it says we're good until July 1 of 2020.
no, that's with the
Insurance reserve.
insurance reserve.
Yeah.
Oh, so we're covered through
And
that.
everybody,
But that's only a portion.
all 3 of these have been
Insurance.
notified by insurance
Yeah.
reserve, this is gonna happen.
Yeah.
So
But that's
I
the
think
building
for the
part of it.
property, yeah, for the building property, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, is that. I think we have no choice but to put that part of the insurance on a bid. Or interview these 3.
Well, and I can make contact with those 3 and ask them to come up with like a whole package.
So our insurance coverage with Bremer is good through next July or June,
Yeah.
you said?
Or Bremer, I don't know about it.
No.
On vehicles?
No, that's the end of the year.
So
Yeah, 'cause
this,
we're talking 2 separate things.
It's two separate,
so the building portion of it, which is changing,
Is
is
this.
through the end of the year, through
July.
July.
that's
July
July.
1.
Okay, and the end of the year is all the vehicles, all the owning
Like
and all
all
that kind of
the-
stuff.
Your
Yeah.
inventory.
State wants to get rid of it on the end of their fiscal year.
Okay.
And they said that, you know, the more time that they have to work, you know, together with an agent. So I mean, I can make contact with the 3 of them and have them do, you know, see what they come up with for a whole package.
Right, for both.
Yeah, that's fine.
For both things,
I just think it's easier for you
Yeah.
if we keep all the coverage with one local provider
Yeah.
and then just reevaluate it every 4th year or whatever at the end of the year and have a package put together again, and then we'll just,
Yeah.
we'll try to have some continuity.
I agree, but I think that by doing a full evaluation, you have a good sense of who you want to work with for all of it for the next 4 years, and I think from that point forward, we just evaluate. You know, I don't think it makes sense to just rotate, just to rotate.
And when we make our determination off of the information we get, then whoever that company is, then they'll take over the building portion of it on July 1 then, as part of the package.
Okay,
So tell them that's gonna be part of the package starting July 1.
okay, we'll do
Just give us
that.
some options.
Get in contact with them, and we have until end of this year then, for the
Yeah, we got,
vehicles and stuff.
we got.
Well,
We got
and-
6
and,
weeks
I
to
mean,
put something together.
Some of them I can probably have something within by December 1st.
Yeah, so we got time to get something figured out, we can work with the local companies. Okay, good.
Good enough. Chris, how you doing?
Good,
We should spend a few minutes with you, and how things going, all right?
yep, doing good. Trying to learn everything I can,
Yeah.
drinking from the fire hose.
Thanks for sitting through this whole meeting. Grant writing, I think I talked to you the other day on the phone, you were finding time to do that, huh?
So I'll give you guys a heads up, actually successfully wrote one, I just got it approved yesterday.
Okay.
I showed you, so.
What was that for?
That was basically the half of my budget from DES. I got approved, so.
Perfect.
In the process of writing another one.
Anything else?
Exercises, yeah, there's an exercise gonna be planned. I think it's just gonna be a tabletop exercise, basically we sit and talk it over. But we're writing a grant to get that paid for. So, we want that as a part of my regulation, I guess I have to follow to continue on being an emergency manager, so hopefully that goes through. I'll let you know.
Okay.
Any particular incident that you're looking for on tabletop, or?
The current one that's open right now is actually deals with the courthouse shooting. So that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Any other questions for Chris? I know we didn't have on the agenda, but.
You finding you're settling into your role all right?
Huh?
It takes a little bit, it's a lot of knowledge, there's a lot of information out there.
That's good. If you were already feeling real comfortable, I'd be concerned.
I know the amount of classes and trainings and courses you've had to attend has been almost to the point of exhausting.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that when I was looking at the bills, it's like, you've been on the road quite a bit training, so
Yeah.
it looked like you've been pretty busy.
I don't see an end in sight on that either.
Well, I think it's, emergency management, no different than a lot of the different places, the people in the courthouse. It's just a continual thing, it's just constant learning about what's going on and the functions and
Best practice.
best practices, yeah.
Good. Let us know if you need help with anything, or we'll carry on. Okay, visitors and delegations.
Susie?
Do want to talk to us? Report on portfolios. Mark?
Well, Sheriff's Department, there's not a whole lot new and exciting there. Quiet. LEC is pretty much all buttoned up and all the updates and everything. As far as I know, it's running smooth over there. Did lake access about a week ago. And nothing really changes there. That's a nice board. It's pretty casual and calm, so they're ready for winter.
Wait for the lake to freeze.
Wait for, well, it's next week.
Ice fishing time.
No, it isn't coming yet.
Other than that, everything's pretty quiet.
Okay, Jeff?
Extension, Bill and I and Chris have been talking quite a bit about this disaster declaration and the egg disaster that's currently impacting our producers in the area. There's a lot of crop left out there to be harvested, and maybe this really cold weather is a blessing. Certainly not going to help some of the like pintos and wheat and canola that's laying on the ground. That stuff has been probably lost, but you know, there's enough out there to justify a county egg disaster that Bill has indicated that we should be qualifying for that. You know, it's just a matter of our producers getting the right information to the right people, whether it be extension agent, FSA, those kind of things, but you know, and just talking with people that it's, you know, it's been a tough year for them. It's been a tough year for our growers, so I know Bill's been busy up in that office working with people and topics and things like that, and you know, hopefully we get through this. You know, our egg producers are a tough bunch, so sometimes they're a little prideful and don't ask for help, but hopefully they all get through this kind of thing. It's an ugly mess out there, and I think, you know, it's really surprising that the snow went down as well as it did. You know, there was a lot of gosh darn snow out there. So, you know, we've made headways with that, and this firming up of the ground should be okay for soybeans and corn. couldn't get
It's
one.
helping a lot.
But, Carrie remains busy up in the state's attorney's office. I guess I haven't talked to her much about if we've heard any more news about that nationwide opioid.
I haven't got any now.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything either, so I'm sure that's progressing where it needs to be and those kind of things. I think she's got some of her office equipment ordered. I haven't seen if it's been delivered or not.
No,
Right. So,
hopefully before the end of the year.
right. Yeah. I know there's setting records up there with the number of cases that they've been reviewing.
That's it?
I think so.
Lucas?
Not totally related to portfolio, but going off of Jeff's point about the farmers, yeah, I was having a conversation with one of the ag lenders and I asked him, I said, with how this year went, are you gonna see any operations holding up? He said no, but he said, based on the numbers I've seen, if we have one more year like this year, you might have as many as 40% of the operations holding up. So, it's tough out there.
No.
The only thing I have to report on portfolios is when they were clearing the snow for the library after the big snowstorm, one of the people over at the city this time, not a county thing, they took out the fence. So when you drive by the brand new memorial garden, you can see where they took out the fence. So I was over there at the city yesterday telling them, hey, I'd really like it if you guys reimbursed, I mean, it's city property anyway, but reimbursed yourself and got this fixed.
That's one of those errors that the insurance company needs to.
Just a barbed wire fence, is it? No.
No,
It's a little nicer than a barbed wire fence.
well, it was a little nicer. But yeah, it was just a front loader. They went too far forward and they lifted right up and pulled the top. You know,
Stuff happens.
Metal fence.
yeah, you'll have to go take a look at it. It's nice.
Stuff happens.
Looks like I've driven by it a couple times.
Yeah, it's on Fifth Ave. Yeah, it looks cute. And it's one fence panel. It'll cost, $400 at most to have it, but that's all.
That's all you got?
Everything else.
Adam?
Social services, nothing too crazy happening there, other than, we're just making transition. The Forward Devils Lake meeting tomorrow, we approved two more people into the 2020 program, 2 more students, so we have 3 students now. We're starting to make some progress there, so that's good. The state has some programs that are mirroring that kind of piggyback on what our program's doing, so that's good. Everything in the courthouse has been pretty quiet. The one thing that just crossed my head when we were talking about grant writing with Chris is, I went up to the Edmore City Council meeting on Sunday evening, because they're looking at doing one of those transportation alternative grants to do some sidewalk work. And, so they had some questions, and I have about as much knowledge as you can to get dangerous, I guess. So I tried to answer some questions and say, contact Kevin if there's something that maybe I left out, looking at the thing. But one of the things they mentioned, and I think it's a reasonable thing to question about, to look at, is when you have a city the size of Devil's Lake, there's all kinds of grants available that you can write for all kinds of different things. But the small cities are all run by volunteers. And they don't have enough time to stay on top of putting something through the grant process. And maybe it would be something where, and I'm not saying this is on you, but I'm saying maybe as the county, we should look at maybe trying to find a way to help our smaller communities to maybe access grant writing or something so that they can work on stuff like water towers and sidewalks and things like that to try to keep them as robust as possible. A lot of these grants are really in-depth and they're really complicated and you have to stay on top of them. And when you're somebody that has a full-time job and is the city auditor in Edmore or Prairie or whatever, that's a mountain to climb.
It is, you're right.
And there's all kinds of good programs out there to help, to tap. And I think it'd be something that would maybe behoove us to look into to help maybe, and it would connect those smaller towns out in the county to the county a little bit better in terms of communication and everything, so we know what's going on in all those small communities a little bit better.
Totally right.
So I think it's something that was rolling around in the back of my head that maybe we should find a way to make it work. I don't know, it's still kind of rattling around, maybe I can find a way to do something, but just a thought.
When you brought it up, as long as we put it on out for everybody, how about North Central Planning, do they have any grant writers?
The grant, would they write grants for those small towns?
If they were asked.
If they're asked, okay,
Yeah,
maybe that's
they've
something
done
we
it.
could tap then. Okay, I didn't know that, I know that they administer the grants, I didn't know that they would write them.
Yeah, they'll work with you. It depends on how, you know, engaged the people are. And again, if they have no time at all to even come and have a conversation with North Central, I mean, that's tough, but I don't know how you fix that, even if you were to hire a, you know, small community grant writer. I mean, you still need them to come and tell you what they need.
Right. Maybe we can help lead them to the right direction, you know?
Yeah, and it might be as simple as that. I mean, I don't know every, you know, I know Sandy does a good job over at North Central Planning, but there's only so much they can do too, you
Well,
know?
and actually, now that you mention it, maybe I should have mentioned this under portfolios, North Central Planning is currently looking to hire, you know, a business and community. I mean, it's essentially what you're talking about. I mean, they're,
Okay, good.
so.
Well, maybe we just need to do a better job of, not necessarily just North Central Planning, but I like the concept of all the small cities in the county having a better connection to the county infrastructure. Because I think we miss that connection sometimes.
I agree with
You
you.
know, they have concerns and like I said, they're all volunteers. It's not necessarily their fault and or our fault. It's just making those connections so we know what's going on in those small communities, so we can help them a little bit more and they can tell us what they need.
Well, and I think as time goes on and a lot of these communities continue to hemorrhage, they're only gonna need the county more. You know, it's not like things are gonna get much better where they're gonna be able to handle their own affairs.
And we already provide all the police protection through the sheriff and everything else. So I mean, I think it's just, that we talked about the old fun issue of tearing down buildings, so.
Thank you for going, Adam, I mean, taking your time to go up there.
My mother-in-law's on the city council, so.
Well,
she
that's
just
why you
went
went,
there.
okay. Did you get apple pie?
No, I got tater tot hot dish when I was
Oh,
there.
great, better yet. Well, it's good. Anything else?
No, that's all I have.
Okay. I guess mine is law enforcement. Mark said, I think we have the video and intercom system working properly, so it seems to help a lot. All the counties in the city are in on the budget, so we had quite a meeting at the last month. You were there, weren't you, Adam?
Yeah, I was sitting in the back, or at least a portion of it.
But it was,
Just listening.
I think we got some things hammered out, so we got some understandings. It's gonna be a tough sled, but I think it'll go, so. Everybody seems to be pulling together out there, so. It'll work.
But I had a question on that, just.
Sure.
You know, we've got a total dollar figure it takes to run the facility. And we've got I mean, I guess it doesn't matter to a point, because we've got a total amount of dollars budgeted. But, you know, if we continue to run under budget, we're gonna have to make up the difference. So, I mean, it's off a percentage share, so it shouldn't affect us. But it's just, it's a deal where we continue to, it's good we're not utilizing the jail, but at the same time, it hurts the jail that we're not utilizing it. So hopefully we can well, like you said, I think the meeting when I was sitting in the back, there's some stuff to hammer out, so at least we're making progress. That's all we can ask for.
Yeah, Rob talked about the feds that day, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, and, so I don't know if they've got any.
I don't think they have yet. I know they were there, look.
Yeah. They weren't bringing them in that week of the storm, but they were gonna look in bringing them in.
Their wheels turn real slow. So.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's, yeah, and the problem with the feds or BI or anybody is you don't get paid the next month either.
No,
right.
You're 3 months back, but at least you're still getting, you might have to float them for a little bit
Yep.
until you start getting
You
that
got something
back
on the
paid, but
books,
at least you
anyway.
got something on the books that
Yeah.
you can hope balance with and get paid eventually.
But it sounded like they were very impressed with how we did the intercom and the video.
Yep.
System. They were very happy with that, so. Any announcements?
Well, a couple other things that I thought of. Chamber had their annual meeting the 23rd of October. Tom Har was presented with the Outstanding Chamber of the Year Award for all his community involvement and going above and beyond. The new chamber board president is Peter Jerome, yep. Outgoing Ryan Yoder, and Airport Authority, John Nord will be retiring. We have started advertising for a new airport manager out there, so when we get those listed and advertised or interviewed and approved, John would like to work with them for, you know, a month and make sure that they have their feet firmly planted on the ground before he vacates permanently. We do have a little bit of an issue out there with some of our equipment that we received last year through a grant, through an FAA grant, was American made. So many percentage of the equipment needed to be American made, and I think the tractor was not fully approved. It was something that Butler Caterpillar knew about. So we're trying to fight with them about seeing if we can get more of the parts. And what it is basically if a certain percentage of that piece of equipment has to be made in, parts have to be made in USA kind of thing. Or if they can't be manufactured in the USA, they have to be a certain percentage above, or, you know, the American-made product be above that purchase price kind of thing. And so we're going round and round with that. You know, we have a tractor out there with all kinds of attachments, so it'd be a shame to have to find a different tractor that the attachments don't fit on. It's a Caterpillar tractor.
Yeah, they make a lot of the subparts in Europe though.
Yeah.
John Deere's getting that, be that way too,
Yeah.
they make a lot of their subparts in Spain and.
So it wasn't, you know, a lot of the bigger airports, you know, they can afford to go out and get that equipment on their own or through their own authority. This one was through a grant, which we thought was, you know, great, but now we're running this issue and hopefully we can get it resolved and taken care of, and the FAA will see the light and get that thing covered, because I can't remember if it's 190,000 or somewhere in that neighborhood that we're gonna
Print some new stickers and put on there.
Scrape off.
But,
Maybe with it.
so that's an issue that they're having out there, but I think we'll get that resolved and taken care of, and, you know, hopefully, I'm sure we'll get good applicants for that airport manager. It's a well-paying job through the city. Yeah, John's doing a good job over the past 11 years, and wish him well in his retirement when he finally retires. But, and that's kind of it.
Okay, anything else on announcements?
November 12th.
One more question just for Kevin. I've been at a couple of city meetings and they've been talking about their snow budget being beat all to hell. How did that snow affect our budget?
Not much.
Not. I know we had some overtime because I know you guys were out on Sunday and Saturday, but.
Overtime, but that was in my budget. Just mostly labor and fuel.
Yeah, well, and all the snow, lots of it ended up in town.
Yeah, it was worse in town than it was in.
Well, yeah, anything where it could catch and blow in, it blew in.
Yeah, I'm sure they went for miles and didn't have anything to move, and then, oh, there's a 10-foot snowbank, no, we'll fit 10 more miles.
Exactly.
I was just curious to know how it affected the budget. Nothing major, okay.
Okay, that's it? Announcements? Nothing?
Can I ask one
Go
question?
ahead.
I'm sorry for extending it. Is it possible, from the chair, if you could talk with Nelson and Benson County so we can get this VSO thing moving? To see how we want to hire this person, if we're gonna do the hiring, or if they want to stay on the hiring, or how we're, I mean, we should at least have a plan in place by, I would guess, the first meeting in December to, so we can get it rolling.
Make a note of it, I had it on the bottom of my sheet, vet officer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how we want to do it as a commission, if we want the other counties to have some say, or if it's just gonna be, we're gonna hire it and put them out there, or
I
what.
would think they'd just let us do it.
I would assume so, but just give them a heads up that we're gonna be looking into it, I suppose.
Okay.
Candy can talk to their auditors too.
Employee appreciation breakfast is what day again? Is it the 20th?
Yes.
That's correct.
Yes.
20th of November.
What time does it start?
8:30.
What time?
8:30.
Breakfast time.
Only lasts an hour.
I ate fast.
So I mean a bunch of pancakes or everything.
Sounds good.
And that's contributed through department heads and commissioners, so if you haven't gotten Crystal your contribution, I'm sure she'd appreciate that. So,
Well,
and I think we're having an ugly sweater day in sometime in
In
December.
December.
Yeah, so. Great.
A few employees dressed up for Halloween.
Yeah.
Nathan was a convict.
Yep.
Had an
Jail.
official orange jumpsuit on with the,
Yep.
You have jail bars in there then?
Well, we had a few people that kind of, that actually dropped off bids that day, and they come sit at the counter and they're like,
got somebody working work release right here.
he's like, oh yeah, I'm on a work release today, and I'm like, no. He's like, no, just kidding, you know, it's Halloween, it's Halloween. Oh, well, you had me going there for a minute, like,
I got one that rides with me every day, so.
yeah.
Okay, anything else?
One thing, just at the holiday showcase is coming up on Tuesday at the Memorial Building, 4:30 to 7:30.
When is
Open
it?
to the public,
Tuesday.
Tuesday, the 12th.
Tuesday the
Yep,
12th.
so if you guys can make it, that would be wonderful. And we packed house again this year.
Anything else? Anybody, Kevin? Nothing? Happy with the bid?
Yeah, absolutely. I was disappointed that they didn't bid their 870. I let them know.
Okay, thank you, we're adjourned.